this Christmas week, I want to begin by wishing each of you a Merry Christmas. And I also want to say thank you for your faithful and generous support of the E2 Initiative. Because you give, we're able to train pastors all over the world. To learn more about the E2 Initiative, you can go to e2initiative.org. So this week I want to leave you with a very simple message, but I want to frame it around 3 truths that you can afford to forget about Christmas and 1 truth that you must never forget. First of all, let's just admit that we can forget about the little drummer boy. There wasn't one, at least not according to the Bible. And furthermore, can you think of any sleep-deprived mom with a newborn baby who would want a stranger to come and to bang on a drum and wake their child up? I don't think so. Second of all, we can forget about giving the innkeeper a hard time. You know, the Bible doesn't mention the innkeeper. It just says, the Bible says, that there was no room for Jesus in the inn. So let's get off the innkeeper's back this Christmas and let's give him the benefit of the doubt. And thirdly, you can forget about the 3 wise men at the manger scene. First of all, the Bible doesn't say there were 3. It just says they brought 3 gifts, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And furthermore, most of our manger scenes are wrong because the wise men didn't arrive on Christmas Day. It wasn't until 1.5 or 2 years later when they finally showed up. So those are 3 truths that you can forget about this Christmas. But I want to remind you of a truth that you cannot afford to forget. And here it is. It's very simple. The message of Christmas is this: do not fear. You know, 3 times in the Christmas narratives, those first characters who were exposed to the coming of the King Jesus were told not to fear. In Matthew chapter 1 and verse 20, Joseph was told not to fear. In Luke chapter 1 and verse 30, Mary was told not to fear. And in Luke chapter 2 and verse 10, the shepherds were told not to fear. You see, by nature, we're fearful and timid people. We're fearful of things like the unknown or our inability to solve our own problems. We're fearful of our own mortality. But there's some good news. Christmas is about freedom from fear. But it's not simply freedom from our fear of failure or fear of catching a virus or even fear of losing the big game. Now, those are real fears we struggle with for sure. But Christmas is about freedom from an even greater fear. It's the fear that every human being has, whether they admit it or not. It's the fear of death. What happens to us when we die? You know, concerning this truth and reflecting on the purpose of Jesus' birth, the writer of Hebrews puts it this way. Here's what he says: since therefore the children share in flesh and blood, that's you and me, Jesus, he likewise partook of the same, that through his death he might destroy the one who has the power of death, that is, the devil, and to deliver those who through fear of death were subject to a lifelong slavery. You see, the purpose of Jesus coming, the purpose of Christmas, was for Jesus to conquer our greatest fear, the fear of death. You see, here is the truth that we must never forget. Jesus was born so that you and I, so that we could be born again. And oh, by the way, if Jesus came to conquer our greatest fear, just think what he can do with all of those other fears, the things that keep us awake at night. You really can trust him with your life. So may your Christmas, this week, this coming Saturday as we celebrate the birth of our King, be one of unspeakable joy as we celebrate the one who came to conquer our greatest fear. Merry Christmas.